I am pleased to welcome the co-chair and founder of the Huntington Study Group, Elise Kayson, to the program, along with the executive director, Shari Kinel. Great to have you both here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Elise, I want to start with you. Before we talk about the Huntington Study Group itself, let's talk about what inspired it, and that is Huntington's disease. How does it impact people, and how does it present?
So Huntington's disease is what we call an autosomal dominant disease, in which each person who has a parent who's affected by the disease, each child then is at 50% risk. So each child in the family could end up with the disease, or only one person in the family who may end up with the disease. And we know that it starts because there's an abnormal amount of repeat lengths on a certain chromosome, and there's an increase in this protein called Huntington protein. Mm-hmm. And so everybody has that normally, but in people with the disease and who carry the genetic mutation, there's an increased amount of the Huntington protein. And that's what causes all the signs and symptoms of the disease.
How prevalent is it in our community here in the Rochester region?
We have about 200 to 250 families here in the Rochester area, and they're seen typically at the University of Rochester's center.
Mm-hmm. Shari, I want to ask you about the Huntington Study Group. What is the group doing to address the disease and try and further research into it?
So the Huntington Study Group's mission is to seek treatments that make a difference for Huntington's disease, and basically we run clinical trials in Huntington's disease. So pharmaceutical companies who are investigating a compound or a therapy that they think is going to affect a symptom of the disease, or hopefully one day cure this disease, will contact us, and we will run their clinical trial for them. And the Huntington Study Group was actually founded because it's such a rare disease, and the individuals who founded it, one of them was Elise Kayson and Ira Schultzen, who's a neurologist at the University of Rochester. Mm-hmm. They decided that the only way to combat a rare disease like this is to bring an entire network of researchers together and to get their brains together to kind of figure out this disease. So we formed this network called the Huntington Study Group, and it also set standards on how to run really good clinical trials in Huntington's disease.
This group was formed back in 1993.
That's right.
You have now recently reached 100 credentialed research sites. It's not just a milestone marker, it represents everything that you just described. So many people across the country working together to fight this disease. How significant an achievement is that?
It's a huge significance because we have an enormous network. Actually, we're a global network of researchers, and every time we bring somebody into our network, that just says we now have somebody who has expertise in Huntington's disease. So that's huge for the area in which we credential the sites, for the patients and families who have this rare and terrible disease. Mm-hmm. And it's huge for our network, because what that means is when a pharmaceutical company wants to run a clinical trial, we have another research site that can investigate that product. So now we have Oregon, that's our new site, that can do that.
Many hands working together. Elise, I want to finish with you. I know to that end, you have all these sites across the country. You'll bring them all together coming up in November at a big conference, won't you?
Yes, so we're going to be in Sacramento, California. We pick a different site every year so that we can bring our patients and families that live in that area to the conference. And we're going to be bringing in HD experts from all over the world, pharmaceutical companies, advocacy organizations, and community members to hear the latest and greatest in HD research.
Those conferences, each year you have them. What comes from those conferences? Do you feel tangible gains when you leave them?
Yes, because we're hearing about the latest things that researchers are finding either in their labs or based on clinical trials. We're hearing about results of clinical trials so that we can share that information with patients and families and give them hope.
I want to thank you both for coming in.
Thank you
really
very
appreciate
much.
your time this morning. Continued success with the Huntington Study Group and finding a cure for Huntington's disease. We're pulling for you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to learn more about the study group and this disease itself, the website is huntingtonstudygroup.org. As always, you'll find that on our site at rochesterfirst.com.